Hey guys, what's up? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for checking out another one of our videos. Today, you might notice I'm in a bit of a different spot. This is my dad, Joe Scott, a Grammy-nominated producer, recording engineer, singer-songwriter, guitar player, tours all over the world, and guy who taught me everything that I know about music, for sure. We are here in my dad's beautiful studio in Berthoud, Colorado, checking out some of his gear, making a few videos for you guys. But one thing that I wanted to talk about, that we wanted to talk about, is something that I think it's a complicated topic, and it's something that a lot of people kind of debate back and forth these days, something that can be a little bit murky for people who are just coming into the music industry, especially if you're interested in recording studios and production and stuff like this. And that is just the simple question of, like, what is a music producer? You know, because it's a term and kind of a job title or role or whatever that's had a lot of different definitions. And there's the kind of the old school version, which is what you and I think of when we think of a producer. But then there's a lot of guys nowadays who maybe don't have a lot of equipment or a lot of experience, but they are able to maybe make a few hip hop beats or something like that. And then they go around calling themselves producers. Not that they inherently shouldn't, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about this kind of dichotomy. And I know you have a lot of great insight on this. So, like, what is a producer to you when you think of a record producer or a music producer?
Well, I think big picture overall, the producer is the person that helps the artist visualize their full potential. So in other words, a good producer is somebody who can look at somebody and say, at an artist and say, wow, they have a ton of potential. I really like their tunes, but with just a little help, they'll be able to take it from the garage and or the bar or whatever, polish it, rearrange it perhaps, work on things to really polish things, intonation, timing, all those types of things, and bring them into the studio and help them through that process. And I think over the last 50 years, the whole producer term has morphed and changed. There are producers who are very simplistic. They don't leave a big footprint. They don't take an artist and try to make them what they think their vision is. They try to help that artist, again, like what I just said, see them through that process, the recording process, and say, hey, no, that's a little out of tune. Hey, that, we try an E minor there, try the relative six, the minor there instead of a 4-chord or whatever, little tweaky things like that. And that's a minimalist producer. Then there are the producers who, when you're hearing the artist, you're actually really hearing the producer because They basically wrote the song, maybe with the artist, or they took the artist's song and rewrote it to the point where you wouldn't even recognize it.
Right.
And so to me, those are the two camps, and then there's a lot of in between or what have you. And I don't believe there's a right or wrong. I think it'll depend on who the artist is. Some artists really have a great vision for themselves, know what they want. They just need a second pair of ears that they trust.
Right.
First and foremost, to trust your producer is ultra important. And so there's guys who are already basically there. They just need that last little bit of polish. To the people who have a great voice and might have some great lyrics or some great basic ideas, but they really need a strong producer who's going to help mold them to be,
give them a
whatever
sound
it is.
or...
And so to me, it ranges. It's
Right.
not as simple as saying, what is the producer? Because again, literally they're hands off. They'll just sit there in the studio and in a 12-hour session.
Damage mitigation.
And they're counselors and, and what have you. But kind of wearing all hats, and there are producers who are not only great at producing but engineering, and they're great musicians themselves. They can play either one instrument really well or several, and they might find themselves going out and redoing the bass player tracks that the bass player wasn't quite cutting,
or at least telling the bass player what they can do differently or better or something, have that vocabulary to communicate.
Right. So big picture, I just think is the producer who helps the artist to realize their full potential. And sometimes that is, they are the ones who can say, that wasn't good enough. If it's a vocal take or a guitar solo or whatever, just say, look, I think you got a better one in you. Or it might be, that was a great take, that middle 4 bars, let's just loop that and just play it over and over, and or go here. I think this lick would sound better, you know.
Or move to this range in your voice or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. And so a good producer, wow, they know a little bit about everything.
Exactly. You know? Well, and that's something that I think is getting lost a little bit these days. And that's, you know, again, kind of why I wanted to do a video like this, because nowadays, if you look around, there's so many guys out there who they don't work with artists to begin with. They have maybe a laptop and a little pair of monitors or a pair of headphones or something and a little beat pad, and they make drum grooves or maybe little synth parts or something, and they put it together into tracks, which they then sell to artists or they upload for free online. And that's now kind of what the term producer is becoming. Mm-hmm. That is not at all to say that that's not like a valid activity or something like that. I do a ton of that myself. But I guess just kind of the moral of the story here, at least to me, is that for you guys out there who are looking at getting into this and you maybe something you want to be a music producer, a record producer, it's a lot more complex. Mm-hmm. As you were saying, there's so many pieces and facets to it. Right. As a role, as a job, as an activity or whatever, that go so far above and beyond just like making a beat or, you know, writing a part or something. You know, a producer, to me, a great producer, and what I always strive to be in my studio when I work with artists, is being able to identify that talent in an artist, help them create and realize their sound, and through that process, you should be able to, again, like you were saying, communicate each of those parts. You should know arrangement. Right. And how songwriting really works, and all of your different, you know, kind of modes and music theory and chord theory and all this kind of stuff. You should know that. You should be able to hear it and be able to communicate it and see if there's a problem. Same thing with rhythm and kind of rhythmic theory type stuff, you know, be able to express different types of drum grooves to a drummer or to, if you're doing hip hop or something like that. Knowing rhythmic cadencing and these kinds of things. All the way through knowing engineering, knowing various pieces of studio equipment, knowing how studio sessions need to run, keeping the budget in mind at all times. Exactly. If you're renting out a space, that's a huge job of a producer. Yep. Is if you're sitting around and somebody's been working on a guitar part for 7 hours, maybe stepping in and going, "Hey guys, we got it.
I think we're done." Yeah.
About 4 hours ago. Don't let the bill run up. Be able to communicate between the artist and the engineer.
Super important.
All this kind of stuff. So, you know, it's a complicated thing, but I want to make sure that everybody out there kind of remembers where this came from. Right. You know what I mean? Which is more your era.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, most artists almost always had a producer, you know, and a record label and or recordings. They would have a stable of producers, and so they would sign an artist, and then they would say, "I think this producer A, would be a great fit with this band because this is an acoustic-based band and this producer has skills in that area." So they would literally say, "This is who your producer is going to be."
Right.
And the artist wouldn't even necessarily get a say-so in that. But with the help of the producer, the chances are much better that this record label is going to get a record that they're going to be able to sell, versus a lot of artists who just say, "Well, I'm an artist and I want to create art." And it's like, fine, but you got to make sure that art is sellable, accessible, and the producer should help you get there. The producer should have a very strong sense of what's good enough and even what sells. You know, if you're trying to be a pop artist or you're trying to sell records, whether it was 50 years ago or today, that producer needs to know what's happening and
what's current, what the modern sound is, and which of those sounds fits well with that artist's identity, whether it's sound or whatever,
whether it makes sense. And it's all over the board, I think.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I mean, again, moral of the story here, I guess, is just for any of you guys aspiring producers out there, just know that you know, it's not just making beats. It's not just doing these kind of more simple, like, oh, I'm going to make a few tracks and then I've got a buddy who's a rapper, so I'll give them to him, and then I'm a producer.
That's a great place to start.
Yeah, exactly. That's a phenomenal place to start. But there is a long history of, you know, I have produced, I don't know, probably 10 records over the last 5 years that I've been doing this professionally. You've worked on far more than that. Mm-hmm. And I, you know, even having done 5 records where I have scouted an artist and helped them to develop a sound and brought in my own sound and hired studio musicians, worked with an engineer, like done this whole process, I still don't really consider myself a proper producer. You would be much more so than I, even though you don't do it full time anymore, back when you ran your studio back in the day. But just know that that's a great place to start, making beats, learning this stuff. But to really go the full mile and become like a true producer like you see in the documentaries and like the guys that you read about in Rolling Stone and stuff, it's a lot more complex than just a kick and a snare and a cool synth.
That's right.
You gotta know a lot more about music and
absolutely
that kind of stuff.
And beyond the music itself is what kind of vibe do you bring to the session? Working with the artist, are you pleasant to work with?
How's your hang? Is what we call that.
How's your hang? Exactly. It's like, trust me, the vibe that you bring. All of you probably know some musician that always comes into the room and lights up the room and makes everything you're doing and better or feel better or what have you.
Be more fun.
Be more fun. It should always be fun. And if there's somebody that's bringing it down or just always negative, you can't create music or art from that place.
Right.
So it's the technical skills, their musicianship, their musicality, their vibe, knowledge, all of that.
Interpersonal work ethic, all that stuff. So, hopefully this has been helpful or interesting to you guys. What are your thoughts about this topic? What really is a music producer? I know it's a constantly evolving thing. It's different when you were a kid from where I am now, and I'm sure it'll be a bit different in 20 years. But whatever you guys may think, your opinions, thoughts, please leave them down in the comments below. Love hearing from you guys, and I would love to get your insight on kind of where this is all headed and what you guys think about this, because it is a complex topic, and I think it's an important topic, and I think everybody's got a different opinion. So check those down in the comments below. Love to hear from you. Again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini. This is my dad, Joe Scott. Check him out at acousticeidolon.com is his current musical project with my stepmom. They do acoustic stuff. She plays cello. He plays acoustic guitar. They write, they sing songs. They tour all over the world. It's very, very cool. acousticeidolon.com, EIDOLON. Definitely very cool stuff. So again, Alex Scott, Consordini, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you in the next video.